Hello and welcome to the Computers and NanoLab Administration section of orientation. This part of orientation, we will go over some of the computer resources you will be using as a lab member. Let's get started from the NanoLab webpage. At the top of the page are links to Mercury, the equipment manual, the process manual, and process specifications, and the member page. Mercury is a system we use to run the lab. So let's take a look at what you see when you click on this link. When you log into Mercury from your home or office, you'll be logged into a regular Mercury session. This session has a gray bar at the top. You will be able to make reservations, take online tests to qualify on equipment, and check equipment status from a regular Mercury session. A lab session of Mercury has 3 additional features to a regular session. First, in a lab session, you can enable and disable equipment. Second, you are included in the safety count of the lab and are available to respond to emergencies. And third, you can print off your name tag. You will know that you are in a lab session if you see a yellow banner at the top of the page. It will also list your location and the length of time you've been logged in at the top right. So let's go over what you need to do to be in a lab session of Mercury. First, you have to physically be in the lab. There are lots of lab terminals throughout the laboratory for you to access Mercury. Each terminal has a label on the monitor, so if there is a problem with any particular terminal, you can file a problem report with an identifier. Once you're at a lab terminal, you will then log into CAPE 4. These are remote desktop sessions and are the only way for our system to know that you are physically in the laboratory. You will only ever be in a lab session from CAPE 4. Now that you're in CAPE 4, you can click on the Mercury icon on the desktop and log into Mercury. You will now see the yellow banner at the top that shows that you have a lab session. You will also see that your name is added to the lab occupancy board displayed throughout the lab. These boards refresh every 30 seconds in case you don't see your name immediately. When you are ready to walk away from a particular terminal, you can click Hide CAPE to close your CAPE session. You can leave any browser sessions running in the background while you continue your work in the lab. Once you are ready to leave the lab, you must log out of your lab session. To do this, click on your name and then click Lab Logout. This keeps the list of people in the lab accurate. If you forget to log out of the lab, you may log out from home. In a regular Mercury session, go to the In the Lab tab. Find your name and then click Log Out. We also have an Auto-Logout feature. If your lab session is idle for 4 hours during the day or for 2 hours during nights and weekends, you will be automatically logged out. To prevent being logged out while you are actually in the lab, be sure to do an action in Mercury, such as clicking on the In the Lab tab to see who else is present. You can read more about Auto-Logout feature in the CHP. It is possible to be in a regular session of Mercury and see a location listed next to your name. This will happen for one of 2 reasons. Reason 1 is that you are physically in the lab and open a Mercury session without going through CAPE. Reason 2 is that you are away from the lab and you forgot to log out of the lab. If this is the case, be sure to log out immediately. Logging into and out of the lab is separate from enabling and disabling equipment and is tracked separately. When you log into the lab, that will start a clock that will track your time in the lab. When you enable a tool, that will start a separate clock that will track your time on a particular tool. Different tools have different rates. You may review the different rates by going to the membership page on the NanoLab website. You may leave a tool enabled and physically leave the lab, although this depends on the tool in question. When you log out, you will see a warning message reminding you that you have a tool enabled. If it is safe to do so, you can proceed to log out. You will not be able to remotely disable the tool. You must return to the lab, stop your process, and disable the tool. If you forgot to disable a tool and need to receive a credit back to your account, File a problem report in Mercury under Accounting with details. Include the date, tool name, and the amount of time to be credited to your account. It is rare, but occasionally our computer systems are unavailable. When this happens, we turn on Equipment Override, and all the tools in the lab are temporarily enabled. You may continue to work in the lab, but you must log your lab time and your tool time manually. When the systems are again available, Mercury will be running simultaneously with Override on. If you started a process or finished a process while Override was on, you must enable or disable your tools. When Override is turned off, all tools will return to the state they were in unless you update Mercury. There will be several announcements made to warn you prior to Override being turned off. We've talked about logging into the lab, enabling and disabling tools, and how to handle things in rare instances when the computer systems go down. In this next section, we will cover some day-to-day details when working in a lab. When you work in the lab, you will be collecting data on various tools. NanoLab staff does not back up member data on lab equipment or lab terminals. We do back up data transferred to CAPE 4. To transfer your data off of individual tools, you need to use the Shiva boxes to transfer your data to a USB. There are detailed instructions to do this on the member page on the NanoLab website. You are not allowed to work alone in the lab. To help you find a buddy, we have a couple of resources available. The first is the Buddy Board in Mercury. You can subscribe to get email notifications when others post to the board, and or post to the board yourself when you plan to work on a night or weekend. We also have a Buddy terminal in the gowning room. When you log into Mercury from this computer, you will be counted as present in the lab to respond to emergencies, but you will not accrue any lab charges. Your location will be 580 Buddy on the occupancy board. You may not enter the lab if you are logged in at the Buddy terminal except to respond to an emergency. If you need to email a lab member, you may contact them by emailing membername@silicon.eeks.berkeley.edu. You may also email everyone qualified on a tool by emailing the tool name at silicon.eeks.berkeley.edu. These are forwarding email addresses. You do not have an additional inbox you need to check. If you do not have a Berkeley email address, you must send emails to these aliases via Mercury. You are encouraged to review your lab charges from the activity log in Mercury. Billing begins on the 25th of every month. Different tools have different rates, which can be reviewed on the NanoLab website. And remember, if a charge is incorrect, you may file a problem report under the Equipment Accounting in Mercury. This concludes the computers and administrative part of orientation. For more information on any of these topics, go to the members section of the NanoLab website.